Cross-faction dungeons, raids, and PvP coming in patch 9.2.5. Blizzard has announced that cross-faction dungeons, raids, and PvP are coming in patch 9.2.5. Guilds will remain single faction. Random match made activities will also remain same faction. All raids, dungeons, and raided PvP will be cross-faction, barring some exception raids with faction-specific components, such as Battle of the Zara Lore and Icecrown Citadels. Group Finder will be cross-faction, however, the group leader may choose to restrict the same faction if they wish. You can directly invite members of the opposite faction to a party with battle tag if you are part of cross-faction WoW community. For years now, many players have questioned whether the rules of restricting communication and cooperation between Alliance and Horde need to be so absolute. The faction divide could keep close friends from playing together or cause players to feel that their faction leaves them with far fewer opportunities to pursue their favorite group content. This right here refers to Alliance. For those of you that don't actually play World of Warcraft, in case you guys weren't aware, on a majority of realms you have like 80 to 99% of Horde. Then you have like 10% Alliance. Even in Alliance-dominated realms, like the Alliance-dominated realms have a lot less population than Horde-dominated realms. Because quite simply, there's a lot of people that most people actually choose to play Horde. And I'll tell you right now that there is a significant, at least from my experience, there's a significant Horde bias in most of Blizzard developers. So like if you've ever been at a BlizzCon or if you watch like BlizzCon live, you can tell that when the developers go like for the Horde, they go like for the Horde. And when it comes to the Alliance, they go like for the Alliance. So it's like, I'm not saying there's a bias. Actually, I am saying there's a bias. There's a bias. There's the bias. They get way more hyped up for the Horde than they ever get hyped up for Alliance. It's just that simple. So, you know. Anyways, these downsides have long been justified in order to preserve a central element of the Warcraft universe. It all began with a game titled Warcraft, Orcs and Humans, right? But to quote a one-time war chief of the Horde, times change. I'm pleased to announce that we are working on adding the ability for Alliance and Horde players to form pre-made parties together for dungeons, raids, and raided PvP. There have been 2 decades worth of code and content crafted with the assumption that parties can only have players of a single faction, and while we want to make this feature available as soon as possible, the extent of the change means that it could be ready in time for the upcoming Eternity's End content update. Instead, we are planning to test and release it as a part of subsequent 9.2.5 update. We're eager to hear your feedback about the details we're sharing today on the details of our implementation when this feature becomes available to the public test realms following the release of Eternity's End. In crafting a rule set for this new feature, we were guided by 2 goals. Focus on organized instance gameplay. Dungeons, raids, and raided PvP have been at the center of the most compelling arguments for relaxing the faction divide. This is content that by definition requires a pre-made group, and thus social barriers will have the greatest negative impact on people's abilities to access these experiences on their preferred terms. Make this an opt-in feature as much as possible. In terms of in-world fiction and player preferences, there are decades of animosity to overcome. While we are excited to offer players the choice to reach across the faction divide and cooperate to overcome common foes, we know that there are many who will react warily to this change and don't want to override those preferences. This is about increasing the options for players. I'm going to read this whole thing and then I'll give you guys my take on it because I just want to get the reading part out of the way. These guidelines lead us to the following system. Players will be able to directly invite members of the opposite faction to a party if they have a battle tag or real ID friendship, or if you are members of a cross-faction WoW community. Pre-made groups in the group finder listings for mythic dungeons, raids, or raided arena RBGs will be open to applicants of both factions, though the group leader may choose to restrict the listing to same faction applicants if they so choose. Guilds will remain single faction, and random match-made activities like heroic dungeon skirmishes or random battlegrounds will all remain same faction, both because there's last faction-driven pressure around random groups and to avoid compromising the opt-in nature of the feature by randomly placing a queuing orc in a group with a night elf. Once in a party together, members of the opposite faction will remain unfriendly while in the outdoor world and fully hostile in war mode, as they do today. Though they will be able to communicate through party chat upon entering a dungeon raid or PvP match, however, all members will be friendly and able to assist each other in combat, trade, loot, earn, shared achievements, and otherwise fully cooperate in the same way members of the same faction have always been able to. Major goal in announcing this feature in advance is to make sure we're capturing all the expectations and requirements for this to be a smooth experience. A group rating doing Mythic Plus keys or chasing higher PvP ratings should be able to operate seamlessly whether they're the same faction or cross-faction group. This functionality will also apply to legacy instances and is available at all levels, though there will be several older instances that cross-faction parties cannot enter, at least for now. Battle of the Zaralora, Trial of the Crusader, Ice Crown Citadel. Remember that gunship battle? Yes, we do. And a handful of others that similarly have extensive faction-specific components that will have to be reworked to support cross-faction parties. There are likely those who have read this far with some unease, worried that this is chipping away at the foundational principle of Warcraft. Really? Really? There are? At BlizzCon in 2019, when an attendee asked about cross-faction play, we responded at the time, Alliance and Horde separation is a pillar of what makes Warcraft Warcraft, but upon reflection, that's an oversimplification. Alliance and Horde identity is what is fundamental to Warcraft, and while at times the identity has been one of division and open conflict, we've seen Alliance and Horde finding common ground and working together ever since Warcraft 3, notably the last time a Warcraft chapter was named Eternity's End. And the instances of cooperation in World of Warcraft itself are too numerous to count. Yeah, like even in... Was it BFA? It was BFA when, Horde got together with Alliance and brought like both the armies to come and face off against Sylvanas. We're hopeful that these changes will serve to actually strengthen faction identity by allowing more players to play with a faction whose values, aesthetic, and characters they find more compelling, rather than feeling forced to choose between their personal preference and the ability to play with friends. This is actually a very good thing because you guys know I've always been a dwarf main. So you guys already know where I stand on this. I've always been like a dwarf main, but most of the people that I would want to play with, they want to play on the Horde. So yeah. Following the events of the Battle for Azeroth, the Alliance and Horde are poised in an easy armistice. The factions will stand apart, and even as some of their leaders cooperate in the Shadowlands, countless members of each faction will neither forgive nor forget the wartime actions of the other. For every Jaina, there's a Gen, and that seems unlikely to change anytime soon, but why shouldn't players be able to make that choice for themselves, especially in cooperative settings where the story revolves around coming together to overcome dire threats? We look forward to hearing your thoughts and feedback on this feature, both now and once it arrives for testing on 9.2.5 PTR. We'll see you in Azeroth. So, first thing, why is Blizzard doing this? Blizzard is doing this because, at least this is my opinion, take it for what it is. The reason Blizzard is doing this is because, quite simply, Alliance has had problems fielding raid teams in a lot of realms. There's also, I think is it in Oceania, where there's a couple of realms that have more Alliance than Horde, so it's the other way around. So maybe in some of the Oceania servers, I'm not exactly sure. I know that there's one region where it's the other way around. There's way more Alliance than Horde, but in most regions, the divide is like there's just way too much Horde and not enough Alliance. Okay? That's always been my experience in World of Warcraft. There's always less Alliance. Now, as you guys know, my good friend Quirin Anali comes in chat every now and then, and he has always been a hardcore raider up until when he stopped playing the game because the game became garbage, right? He's always been a raider, and he is much more aware of like the situation than I am, and he always told me that basically like every time he goes and he tries to play Horde, it is like getting a group for literally any activity on Horde. It's like that. Just snap your fingers, boom, group's done, good to go. Getting a group on Alliance, like say to do Mythic Plus, is literally like pulling teeth. It's literally like pulling teeth. Like you can refresh the dungeon finder as Horde, and it's like fresh batch of people trying to run a specific content. You try to do the same thing in Alliance, and it's like, nope, it's the same 5 groups that you saw earlier. It's literally the same 5 groups that you saw earlier. So that is one of the reasons Blizzard is doing this, because this was the situation before a lot of people stopped playing World of Warcraft. So this was already like this before people stopped playing World of Warcraft. And now with their dwindling player base, because a lot of people actually stopped playing World of Warcraft, it's probably gotten significantly worse to the point where most Alliance most likely can't even do basic things like a Mythic Plus. So, you know, they're just like, okay, let's get this cross-faction thing going. It is also a highly requested player feature for the longest time. So a lot of people have asked for this feature, and Blizzard is in full damage control mode on account of the fact that they know they messed up. They know that this expansion is complete dog shit, and they know that they can't salvage it. So they're trying to buy goodwill from players. This is also why they're giving us all the things that people asked for in the Shadowlands beta. They're giving people all of that stuff like, hey, we're not going to lock you to covenants anymore. Yay. Aren't you happy? Yay. We're going to bring back tier sets. Yay. Aren't you happy? You know, it's Blizzard basically trying to gain their player base back. To me, it's too little too late. Whatever. That's neither here nor there. Does not change the fact that this is, in my personal opinion, a good thing. This is a very good thing. This is something that I would wholeheartedly support. Like they say themselves, there's plenty of instances of lore where you have the Alliance and Horde coming together. But one of the things that I have to criticize here is that once again, Blizzard is taking a half step. They're taking the lazy way out. This is still like, even though they're doing this, to me, this is lazy. It's like, what do you mean you're going to let us queue up with people from the different faction, but we can't have a cross-faction guild? Why? Why can't we have a cross-faction guild? What's the point? If you're going to let people raid together, you're going to let people do dungeons together, let people do a cross-faction guild. Have it be only on PvE servers if you're concerned about PvP, and in PvP you can implement this the way that it is. Well, that's right, there is no PvP, never mind. Let's just put it like this. If you join a cross-faction guild, while you are a part of that cross-faction guild, you can't turn on war mode. And if you want to turn on war mode and get the rewards for war mode, you can't be a part of a cross-faction guild. Just make it like stupidly easy for people to understand. It's like, hey, you want to play war mode, you cannot join a cross-faction guild. Boom, done. The moment you join a cross-faction guild, you're in PvE mode. You can't just like openly go up against, you know, Horde and whatnot. Boom, done. It's hard to implement for fuck's sake, and they only have time for that. No. It's a half measure. It's like, to me, the moment you do this, you want to get like, dude, just cross-faction guild. Boom, done. But either way, I think this is a very good thing. I see this as a very good thing, and I wish they would go further with it. I want straight up cross-faction guild. That's the way that I look at it, because then I could finally have a guild that would have no fucking elves on it. I would just create a guild and be like, no blood elves, no not elves, none of this elven business. None of this. Just like all of the other races. I'll even take orcs. I'll take orcs faster than I will take elves. How about that? Ba-boom. As a joke, by the way, I know that some people are going to be like, here comes Rurikhan. You know that joke about the burning of Teldrassil is not funny, Ruri. That shit's not funny. I think it was pretty fucking funny when she burned Teldrassil. I thought that was fucking hilarious. I was laughing my way as all those elves were burning crispy in their tree. They can go find another tree, dude. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Just find another fucking tree. Go find another tree, dude. I'm sure there's plenty of them out in Azeroth. Figure it out. Anyway.